Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're listening and you're tuned into and you're viewing Newcastle Fast FM. We're not on 87.9, we're on the internet and we're going wide. Bismillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala nabiyyi al-Mustafa wa ali wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihadihi amma ba'd. Welcome to week 2. Subhanallah, can you believe it? Already we're heading towards the midway point of Ramadan. Subhanallah, Friday will be the 15th day of Ramadan. So we're already hitting day 13. But today I've got a very special guest for you. His name is Umar Malik, and he is what I would call a physical training expert. And he's someone who can really bring out a whole host of different things. Somebody I'm personally working with as well, and I'm getting so much out of it. And I'm really excited to have him on the show. But we're going to get him on. We're going to get introduce himself, get you a bit of background on what he's about. If you've got any questions for him, please do bounce them over, inshallah, and we'll do that. But we're going to generally talk about health and keeping fit and well, inshallah. So it gives me great pleasure, inshallah, to introduce to you Umar Malik. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, Wajid. Wa alaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum, everyone listening. Thank you for having me on.
Brilliant, man. I'm really pleased to have you on, Umar. Now, we've only recently become friends. December, right? I think last year we got to a mutual friend. And we've been talking all sorts of fitness stuff, but you've got quite an interesting story, I think, from your path and journey into fitness. Where did that all begin for you then, Omar?
MashaAllah. So basically, my dad got me into weight training. He got me into seeing what it was like to go to a gym when I was really young. And I was that kid back in the, I'd say, late 90s, running around as a 5-6-year-old when I had no business being in the gym. That was me. That was me. Kind of. I would just go with my dad because he was the guy I always looked up to and still do look up to. And he would take me with him when he would go training. So that was my first introduction to weight training. And then from there, watching Arnie movies when I was little, watching Rocky movies when I was little was always the way I was always, I think, destined to go was into the weight room, into finding weight training. So that's how I got started. And then from there, I've got my own interesting story, I think, where I ended up going through a very big weight gain through my early 20s and actually got up. I was very heavy at one point. I was over 180 kilos at one point. And I was over 28 stone. So I was a really big big person. And basically my story from there has led me down getting into personal training on the back of me learning and working with people, getting into shape myself, understanding more about my body, understanding more about my psychology, understanding more about the food that we eat, and sometimes how it can be a hindrance rather than a help. And culturally, we're very tied to our food. So I think it's an education piece that a lot of our people desperately need, especially at a time like this during Ramadan.
Yeah. So once you start getting into this fitness training, personal training stuff, you worked in some quite awesome places.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I've been blessed to, get jobs with places like Ultimate Performance, and I used to work there in Mayfair in London, and I was the head trainer of that gym, and really enjoyed my time there. I worked there for nearly 3 years, and I got the chance to work with and study under some very good trainers. And now I'm back in Leicester. I'm based in Leicester, and pretty soon I'll be entering into my own venture and seeing what I can do in the fitness space.
Inshallah. That's all exciting stuff, Omar. And I think you see, because when people sort of think about training, there's certain sort of mindsets people have. So either you're going to the gym, you're pushing weights, or you've got your trainers on, you're going for a run, or there's very sort of pocketed kind of ideas of what fitness is. Now, just going back to your own journey, then when you sort of hit 180k or 28 stone, at what point was it that you said to yourself, this has got to change? Because at that sort of point, respectfully, Omar, is that some people could just give up and say, look, man, there's no way back at this point. But what was it for you that sort of shifted your mindset and got you, mashallah, getting fit again?
So I think for myself, it's a bit of a different kind of story in the sense that I I found a lot of comfort in going to the gym, and I also found a lot of comfort in eating. And really, once I started educating myself around what I was doing to my body while I was eating what I was eating and while I was training the way I was training, I realized that, you know what, it's going to hurt me long term. And this is something that I didn't want. Inshallah, I want to train my entire life, and the way I was going was more destructive than it was developing myself. You know what I mean? It was bad for my mental attitude. It was bad for my physical self, my digestive system, my musculoskeletal system. You know, all these different things that are going on in the body. Once I started to learn a bit more about them, I realized that, you know, what I'm doing, it really isn't the best thing. And then the things that taught me that was really listening to my own body. Where when I would have issues that I'm sure a lot of people out there have nowadays, which is things like digestive problems, or my body aches, my shoulder used to hurt quite a lot, and that led me down this rabbit hole of, you know what am I really doing? Should I be doing it? And is there better things out there for me to do? And like you said, people get into these camps, as it were, and I go jogging, or I do Pilates or yoga, but really it's all about understanding what these tools, I'm going to call them tools, because at the end of the day, they're just types of training that we can we can use at specific times, and they all provide their own benefit. They all provide their own help to our body. I can put it in that sense. But really, for us to understand more about them is the key. And that when I started to understand a bit more about my body, that's when things started to change. And I realized that, you know, I was being very unhealthy, and I was almost like a kid in a candy shop. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed the thrill of going into the gym and lifting weights, and I was a quote unquote meathead. I really enjoyed kind of pushing myself, but really that was it wasn't going to last very long, because of how I didn't know any better. And once I started to educate myself, and we know this, like, we start educating ourselves about Deen a little bit more, and we start to align ourselves properly with how we should be doing things. And it's the same thing with the gym, same thing with our physical being, as with our iman. You know what I mean? Same thing.
Yeah. And I think it's a very powerful kind of point there, because, you know, you get people who, you know, and we do this a lot, don't we? It's a willpower thing, and there's studies and studies and studies on it, where, you know, you'll do something that's good for your body, right? But then you'll treat yourself with something that's bad for your body.
Yeah.
So there's this mentality that, you know, like, I remember younger as well, when we used to go, we used to do kickboxing at the gym in uni in Bradford, and we'd sort of finish there and then be like, all right, let's get a kebab. You know what I mean? We kind of had a good workout. We deserve a kebab, you know? And it's like, you know, it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, you know? You don't realize what you're doing to yourself. So there has to come a point where you have to decide to say to yourself, okay, that's enough. You know, there's one direction I'm going to take this in, rather than this conflicted two paths that are constantly in at loggerheads with each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think this is something that I've learned over the years. I'm not going to pretend like I was perfect day one, because I definitely wasn't. But when your body gives you signs, when things like, I study under a guy right now, his name is Jordan Shallow, right? And he says it like this. He says it like, when there's pain in your body, or when there's discomfort in your body, it's almost like when you're driving your car and the light comes on, and it says, okay, check your washer fluid, or check your engine. You know what I mean? And what we do is, no, it's all right, leave it, it's fine. All of a sudden the car breaks, and we think, oh, what do we do now? We got to go to the mechanic. We got to go ring up the AA, RSE, problems. Can't pick you up, sorry. Can't drop you off, sorry. And then there's issues. But you know what? When that light comes on, when you feel that, oh, you know what? When I go to the bathroom, not quite good. It's not comfortable. When I eat this certain food, I don't feel good. When I do this exercise, my shoulder really hurts. You know, that's the sign. That's the thing we've got to latch onto. And for me, I was very, very, what's the way I can put it? I was a bit slow. You know what I mean? I was a bit slow to pick up these signs. But alhamdulillah, I think you get told once, and told twice, and told 3 times, and you know what? The man upstairs is very patient with us, because he keeps telling us until we start doing the right thing. And now I feel like I'm doing the right thing, not just for myself, but I get the chance to help yourself. I get the chance to help a lot of other clients, and I've been PTing for about 8 years now, and I've had the chance to work with a lot of people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just going back to this idea of body signals, because I think the problem, especially with physical fitness and physical training, is it's a lot about aesthetics. It's overly emphasized on
Mm.
aesthetics. How do you look, rather than what are you actually strong and capable of?
Mm.
And I don't. I know you're much younger than I am, Brother Omar, but um, I was huge into Jackie Chan movies,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you know who Sammo Hung is. Uh, uh,
No.
so he's the fat guy who would always fight with Jackie Chan, and
Oh, okay. Okay.
they went to opera school. They went to Chinese opera school together. So Jackie Chan does all this amazing stuff, and he could do exactly the same thing. And yet he had a big rotund belly, and he's like a little Buddha kind of looking character.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And he's the guy who actually, if you've seen the film Enter the Dragon, the beginning fight where Bruce Lee fights with the monks around him.
Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The guy he fights is Sammo Hung.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. That's him. So he's
Ah.
from that, and Jackie Chan's one of the extras in one of the other the scenes. But sorry, I'm going off on one. Yeah, but he's kind of robust looking character. But what he could do with his body was
Mm.
just not just wow. As much as it was comical and entertaining, it was physical feats. He could keep up with Jackie Chan as much as
Mm.
Jackie Chan could keep up with him. And so there's this idea that you have to look a certain way in order to be healthy, but that's not strictly true, is it?
No, not even in the slightest. I mean, I think this just rolls into the world we live in right now. I mean, you can't have one without kind of discussing the fact that everything is over marketed, everything is pushed to you, saying that you got to look like a swimsuit model or whatever, right? It's and the way it's marketed, there's no truth behind it. There's no truth behind sustainability of results. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, is working for myself, is because in the past I've worked at places where they kind of glorify the end image. And I think this is what you're talking about right now, where you see somebody and they look a certain way, and there's like 6 weeks next to it. Oh, you got from this to this in 6 weeks. You got from this to this, and almost saying like that end picture is the goal. And what does that end picture really represent to people who don't know any better? That end picture represents health, it represents confidence, it represents I own my body. We've talked about this recently quite a lot. Like, that's the physical representation of me doing the work. But really, what is the goal? The goal is every day to, one, pick up on those signals. As soon as you pick up on those signals, you can actually start changing your body the right way. And the beautiful thing about this is, once you start aligning with those signals, the physique comes along the way. And this is something that I absolutely didn't understand when I first started training. And I know a lot of clients don't understand this. A lot of people that go to the gym, that pay their membership month after month, year after year, they're there showing up at the gym, putting their hard work in, putting their time away from their family, putting their time away from their homes. And really, they don't get the results because the way they're marketed to say that, do this exercise, do that exercise, do that exercise, and you should have what you want. It's not the full picture. It's not the full story.
Yeah,
Really, there's a lot of other things at play that we have to understand about the body. And I'm kind of going broad spectrum with this, but I think people need to understand that seeing the body on the surface level is only one way of looking at the body. As soon as you start to imagine, if you would, like a household, right? And you've got 4 or 5 different members of this household, and you're trying to make one person in that house the focus of that house. You're trying to make everything about this one person. Everything else is going to feel neglected. And this is the way that people end up going, is when they try and make the surface level the most important. They neglect their health, they neglect their sleep, they neglect their diet properly. They don't put all the
mm,
things in order. And really, if they were just to have everything else in line, that almost takes care of itself. We are a manifestation on the outside of what we are inside. You know what I mean? You are what you eat, all these things. And really, in the West, and I think particularly in the West, there's an expression where we're very good at painting the leaves green. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
the Alice in Wonderland. When she tells all the army to paint the roses red, paint the roses red. It's like the roses are not red on the surface. On the surface, we have physical signs of aging, of bodies falling apart. But what we'd rather do is we'd rather put tight clothes on, we'd rather put makeup on, we'd rather put kind of a Gymshark jacket on and think, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. really we're not. You know what I mean? We should pick up on these signals, and where the body is breaking down, we need to understand that and really do something about that. You know what I mean? That's the win.
And again, that comes down to the whole body image issues
Yeah.
that we have. You know, there's so much pressure, especially on young people now. I mean, when I was young, you know, some some of my friends and some people that we knew would go to the gym, you know,
Mm,
and they were either getting fit or they were, yeah, like you said, you know, meatheads. They were kind of that weird lot, you know, the
mm,
gorillas who went up and pushed heavy weights as much as possible, and so there was this kind of like very narrow segment of our community that did that stuff. Whereas nowadays, you know, I mean, you couldn't move, you know, with this whole Instagram thing and all this stuff. There was so much pressure. There is so much pressure on to look a certain way to be able to represent a certain lifestyle. But I think it, like you said, it's superficial. You know, it's like painting the leaves green. What it does is it doesn't allow you to be who you are. It doesn't allow you
mm.
to appreciate what you are, first of
Yeah,
all, really,
yeah, yeah,
you know, to
yeah.
understand where your strengths are, where you're actually really good at what you do, and
Mm,
nurturing those strengths and those and sort of overcoming those weaknesses in that way, rather than, like you said, you know, I'm 5'10", I'm never going to be 6'3", so you know, no matter what stretches I do, it's not going to happen. But people put that pressure on themselves, where they're constantly trying to push themselves into a shape and form that
mm.
isn't them.
No, no, it's like you've got to be the best version of you. You know what I mean? And really, it's you're using up like mental strength that you could be using for other things, chasing something that really we don't have any business chasing. I'm not gonna be. We can go anywhere with this argument. You know what I mean? I'm much better off served doing what I can do best. You know what I mean? And that comes down to me listening to my body, me putting the food in that makes me respond in a specific way. And really the dialogue needs to start and stop with me. I can read all the information in the world, I can watch all the videos in the world, but if they don't affect my body the way I want to affect my body, the way I feel best, then really I'm just wasting my time. You know, and this is I think a lot of what we were talking before we came on air about going into a gym and not really having these things explained to you. You know, I mean, this is the problem
Yeah,
with kind of
yeah,
budget gyms, in my opinion. Like you have a lot of people, mass volumes of people. You go in there and they're crazily rammed, and really there's no impact. People are not being told, you know what, this is what you need to be doing. This is the things that you need to be focusing on, specific to you, because you've come in with a history of a life. I mean, we started working together when you were X amount of years old, and you've had a lot of things happen to you, whether it be you've had weight gain and weight loss, or whether you've had just weight gain, whether you've been in a car accident, whether you have anything, you know, all these things
yeah.
have implications on how you should go forward. And certain exercises, certain diets are for you, certain diets are definitely not for you. And it's this education which people desperately need, you know, and this is the thing that I really want to provide people, and what I feel like we're working on really, really well right now.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah, and we're definitely going to get into that in a moment, inshallah. And I think, like you said, yeah, there's this cookie cutter approach, as they call it. You know, there's this
Yeah. So,
one side, like come into the gym, here's your machine, this is what you do, you push this weight this way, you pull this one this way, these are the muscles that work, and off you go, you know. But there's not that real one-to-one approach, and it's kind of this blanket kind of approach to strength training or conditioning. But we also see, you know, the the failure of these things, because
mm,
there's always a new fad diet coming out every 2 3 years, and there's there's always the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I think in some ways it's representative of what our lifestyles are like, but it's also there's that social pressure. But I think one of the things that you've also highlighted in what you've said is there's more to building that the best version of you, um, that outside of the gym, you
yeah.
know, that food, that other stuff that comes into play. You know, the
Mm.
gym is a segment of it,
Yeah.
but all the other, to make it 100% effective, there's food and there's rest and
Yeah.
there's life that
100%.
you get on with.
100%. I mean, I've recently been learning more about this, and there's so many different systems in the body, right? This is the way I'm gonna kind of try and explain it. Is that we kind of go after one system, which is the muscle system on the front of the body, but we ignore, for instance, the digestive system, or the rest and recovery system, which is like the nervous system. You know what I mean? All these things have to be understood. And really, if your gym, or if your trainer, or if whoever is kind of wherever you're going for your information are not taking the full approach, and we can call it like holistic, but sometimes that's seen as a bit woo woo and a bit like, oh no, I just want to push weights. Thank you, I'll leave that alone. But really, that's we are not just one thing. You know, mashallah, we've been made in such complex ways that for us to ignore all these things, it's we're shooting ourselves, like we're kind of keeping ourselves from fully being who we can really be. You know what I mean? That's the end goal. That's what everybody really striving for. And I've seen it firsthand with a lot of clients that I work with, no matter the age, no matter the gender, no matter the background. If we take all these things into consideration, it's like reading the book about you. You know what I mean? Reading the book about your life, and realizing there's so many different chapters. There's not just one chapter. There's not just I want to look a certain way. Okay, well, why? Why do you want to look a certain way? What influences you to do this? Okay, and how come we don't look like this right now? What's stopping you? You know what I mean? What are the things that you do? For instance, when I wasn't looking how I wanted to look, when I wasn't feeling how I wanted to feel, I wasn't very active. I didn't get up and move as much as I should have. I didn't eat the right diet. I wasn't aware of these things. You know, I mean, when I was training with a very, very aggressive attitude to say that, you know what, I'm gonna try and do so much in the gym that I can do whatever I want outside. Like it's your example with the kickboxing, right? It's like I'm gonna kick this bag 100 times, and then that's definitely worth one kebab, right? It's like really, it's not. You know what I mean? It's like I need to align everything in, and really when you do that, honestly, Wajid, it's such a great feeling, because you feel it's like you actually own your own life. You actually feel like I'm taking control. You know what I mean? That's such a powerful thing that I don't think a lot of people fully understand.
Yeah, no, Jazakallah khair, and it's true. It's and the more, like you said, the more you study these things, the more you realize, how how much impact diet has on what you do,
Mm,
how your rest and what you're doing with yourself is, is having that. But there's something else you touched on in the sense of, that whole digestive process that goes on, because, people start to, maybe they'll start eating protein shakes, or they'll start doing a bit of this and they'll stop doing that. And it's not done in a way where it's methodical. It's not done in a way
mm.
where it's, it's an analytical process to it. It's kind of, well, I seen that guy do it, so that must be right for me.
Yeah. That's totally true. Totally true. I mean, I said this a lot, that the landscape of the gym is the way it is because of one person. That's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and completely charismatic, completely. He made it work for him, but then the rest of the world looked at it and thought, yeah, I want some of that. I'd happily go and do that. But really, again, we're not him. You know what I mean? We're just not him. Like some people will be built very similar to him, and we see those people kind of running on YouTube and whatever. But he had the mindset, he had the physical attributes, and he made it work for him. You know what I mean? He understood his body very, very well, and that's why he's got where he's got with it. But the rest of the world and the rest of the gyms and the rest of the people in that time almost adopted that. You know, you've got to do it like him. You've got to be in the gym 3 hours a day. You got to come back in the evening to do your afternoon workout. And you best go home and do this and do that. And really, the rest of us have normal lives. You know, I mean, we have so many other plates that we're spinning. And admittedly, if you listen to any of Arnold's documentaries from back in the day, he would go to the gym, then he would go to the beach. It's like okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty chilling. You know, it's pretty easy to if what you've got to do tomorrow is, oh, I'm going to go gym. Yeah, great. Okay, then you can live like that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the lives that we have with the families and everything else, and going through things like Ramadan, we have to consider everything. And this is the thing, is that if you've got a set amount of stress on your body anyway, let's learn to deal with that stress first before we take on more. And this is like the spirit of humans. I think is a great spirit, but sometimes when there's too much on your plate, then everything seems like overwhelming. And this is where we see people kind of fall off their diet, and see people kind of think, oh, I can't do this, it's just too hard. It's okay, well, let's look at the approach we took. Let's make sure that we're not trying to put too much on our plate from day one. Let's try and take some of this stuff off the plate. And this is where, when we talk about taking things off your plate, it's like, if we align with making sure we sleep really, really well. I can't count the amount of times I talk to clients and they're in the gym absolutely going hammer and tongs, but they're going to go home in the evening and they're going to sleep terribly. It's like,
Hmm.
nothing's going to happen. I tell you now, nothing will happen. You will be in the same space in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 4 years' time, if you don't address your sleep. Okay, so we'll address the sleep. Right, well, after that, are we going home and filling ourselves full of these over-processed, under-nutrition, the nutritional value is fake on a lot of these protein powders? What do we really do? You know what I mean? They don't have any effect on your body apart from to make you full of sugar, make you full of protein that isn't actually going to do anything for your body. You know what I mean? And that's going to leave you in a place where you've spent money, you feel like you should have got your results, and at the end of the day, when you don't get the results, you just feel more angry. You feel like, this doesn't work for me. There's something wrong with me. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You just haven't had the education, or you haven't had somebody kind of guide you in the right way to say that, you know what, if you tried like this, or if we address these things first, then when you went to the gym, you did this, this, and this, you'd be absolutely fine. And I'm a testament to that. I think the work we're doing is a testament to that. People are moving forward. Right now we have lockdown, we have a really stressful situation. A lot of the world is feeling like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? We can't control that, but what we can control is this. And the way we control it is by knowing about it. You know what I mean? And that comes into obviously educating ourselves around ourselves, but really working with people and just trying to understand how we can go about this puzzle a bit better, so we can achieve what we actually want to achieve.
Yeah, well, Jazakallah khair. There's some profound thinking there, really, around, um, like you said, right at the beginning as well, is that listening to your body, really listening and understanding what it is. And given that, we are here in Ramadan, our digestive system is getting an amazing break, and we know this from the recent trend of intermittent fasting, which is a thing now that a lot of people have adopted. And what we benefit, alhamdulillah, once a month. So we'll be doing this our own fasting, in the sense that we don't have any hydration at all, subhanallah. We're going to go through this process now. What sort of advice do you have, starting with the food stuff, around, when we open our fast? Yeah. What's the best thing to pump in our bodies, basically?
Well, I genuinely, I have two of these water bottles that I know how much water goes in them, and they both get finished. Around from when we break our fast to just after, it gets completely finished. So this is a liter of water, and it totally depends on obviously yourself, on how big you are, how much you weigh, all the other stuff. But that's the most important thing, is the water. The most important thing is the water, and if you're not getting the water in, you're gonna really struggle the next day. And I think one thing that we do is we think, okay, where's the fried food? Where's the samosa? Where's the chips? You know what I mean? That's gonna undo nothing but dehydrate you for the next day, because the salt levels in that food are so high. You've really got to be careful with that stuff. But the first thing I go to is water. And you can get that in many ways. You know what I mean? Like, my mom's a big fan of having a plate of fruit salad made straight away as soon as we open our rosa. It's there, and there's a lot of water in the fruit. You know what I mean? There's obviously we're drinking at the same time, and then having things like soup-based dishes, I think really helps. This is something that I've been talking to a lot of my clients about, is like making some kind of chicken soup, making some kind of vegetable soup. Again, you're looking at the volume of water you're getting in your body, and then to that, adding in things like vegetables to your diet. I know I'm saying a lot of simple things that people know anyway, but it's a case of how can you make it so that you enjoy having these things. Yeah, that's the trick. That's the trick, is that a lot of people will go, and everyone knows that fruit's good for you. Everyone knows that vegetables are good for you. Everyone knows that water is good for you. But especially at this time, we need it. You know what I mean? But how do you get it so you enjoy having it? Because everybody enjoys having a chocolate bar because it tastes a certain way. You know what I mean? We appease our tongue, but then we know it's gonna bite us in the bum the next day. But is there a way where you can go, okay, right, what fruits do I like? What vegetables do I like? If I put a bit of Robinson's sugar-free or whatever in my water, can I get it in? Yes. That's where you start. That's, in my opinion, that's exactly where you start. And then from there, there's a load of other things in terms of keeping it. I'm a big fan of keeping a diet very simple. And people that have worked with me in the past know that there's no secret. There's simple proteins, There's chicken, there's fish. If you like beef, we can go for beef. If not, eggs. Simple. Keep it simple. Chicken thigh, chicken breast. That's it. That's usually what I recommend. And again, cook it in a way that you enjoy. I'm gonna cook some chicken thigh this evening, and it's gonna be with some piri spices on there. There's gonna be some lemon. There's gonna be some honey that goes on top of it, and it's gonna taste great. Inshallah, I'm gonna enjoy it. My family's gonna enjoy it, and it's gonna taste lovely. You know what I mean? I can sit there eating that all day long, and it's healthy for me. You know what I mean? There's not too much of anything in there. There's not too much fat. There's not too much protein. It's cooked in a way that I enjoy, and it's simple for my body to break down. A lot of the things that we go through in this month, I see a lot of families, and we've done this in the past, but we go to like ready-made oven food, or we go to like fried food, and a lot of this stuff is very heavily processed. And when it's processed, you know, you can't get any kind of good nutrition from the food. And when you can't get any kind of good nutrition, you're filling yourself with empty calories. You're filling yourself with lacking in minerals and vitamins. So the month becomes very, very hard. You get to the end of the month and you feel drained of all your energy, and you almost need another month to recover. And really, it's because we didn't put the time and the effort in at the start or during the month to cook well for ourselves, to think about the things that we actually like having and that will actually appease us as a system. You know what I mean? Recently I've been sending out this video to my clients where there's a doctor and he's talking a bit about the COVID situation, and he's saying if you eat to appease the body as opposed to appeasing the taste buds, you're going to be much healthier, much healthier, much happier. And I think that's such a simple thing to say, but we have to understand what that means for us. And I think that can help a lot of people.
I mean, I'm just going to use an example of people like I have a lot of, like I'm sure you have as well, non-Muslim colleagues, and a lot of them will say this, you know, that they won't drink the night before if they've got an early start the next day, or they've got like a busy work day, or they've got like a presentation to do, or they've got some serious workload on the next day. They won't drink or eat in a certain way the night before because they know the impact it has on their body. And I think just to relate that in sort of what we are doing here, in the sense of, yes, that food is halal for you, but in moderation, and that the impact of that food, even in moderation, can be quite destructive.
Yeah.
And in order to keep that system of yours, because I suppose what we've got is this, is an opportunity to really like to cleanse out the system. And I think that's the opportunity Ramadan blesses us with. We haven't eaten since 3 o'clock in the morning, and because you train regularly, you've been working out again today, mashallah. But for some of us who don't, well, it's not something to start today anyway, right? But that the digestive system has had that break, and I think from what you're saying is that when you reintroduce it to food this evening, give it the simple stuff, give it the gentle stuff. So the heavy stuff's not going to be like an impact on the system. It's going to be gentle. It's going to be easy for it to easy workload. It's not having to turn everything on to 100% to deal with it. It's something gentle. It can work through it. It's efficiently dealing with that energy load, and that in return is keeping your mind clear, because your blood flow, because that's what happens in it, Umar. When you eat, a lot of blood goes to your stomach, right?
Yeah. To digest the food. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So in order to really get that break, you kind of rest. You like you said, plenty of liquids. Replenish those things. But it's natural, because our taste buds are conditioned, and that habit really is the greasy foods, the high sugar foods. That's what we crave, don't we? Because the taste buds are sort of tuned into it, and that's something that we have to give ourselves time to really condition ourselves. But it's also being able to say no to something as well.
So true.
Sometimes food gets dropped around, bro. What you're gonna do? You know what I mean? You can't knock it back. It's just so bad, and it's so integral of our culture. It's so ingrained in our society, in our community, in that way, that we don't realize the impact of that. We don't think of it as something that actually is going to have an effect on our health. It's going to have it.
Yep.
But again, like you said, in moderation. It doesn't mean you're literally eating green stuff and
Only that.
and nothing else. But you have to kind of get the balance right. Get the
Yeah,
taste
yeah, yeah.
a bit
That's it.
more
That's it.
conditioned. Mashallah. No, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
What I
okay.
usually say is like give your body a little bit of what it needs and a little bit of what it wants. And I think once we have both those in balance, a little bit of what you or what a little bit of what you need, a little bit of what you want, I think you'll be fine. A lot of people out there will go very, very far just on that little piece of advice that you don't need to like I eat a certain way because it's part of my job, it's part of what I have to do, and it's part of the life I've chosen. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like me. You don't. I think this is back into what you said about people putting pressure on themselves. It's all well and good, but really, if it's not you to like in like for my iftar, I'll make a spinach shake. You know, most people would go, no, not me, not in a million years. You know, that's fine. You don't have to have that. But if I said to you, can you chop some cucumber and put it on the side of your plate? Oh yeah, I'll do that. Perfect. Do that. Please do that because that cucumber today will turn into some carrots next week. It might turn into some peppers the week after. Or maybe just try some mushrooms. You know, what I mean, they taste really good too. Alhamdulillah, you know what? You're so far down the road from where you were that you've done great. You've done really good. And then at the same time, I know I'll finish 2 of these bottles of water, but if you're finishing half of one today and you didn't finish even anything yesterday, you've done amazingly well. And I think that's a big thing is that people look at the end goal, like you said, and they measure themselves across this stick and say, oh well, you know what? I've got all this fat to lose. I've got all these bad habits. I can't do it. No worry, I can't do it. But really, I'm a personal testament to this that I did none of these things. I did none of these things. I didn't look at how much water I was drinking. I didn't look at how well I was eating. But day after day, I made small adjustments and I listened. And you know what? I didn't always get it right, but slowly but surely it started to pay off. And I've realized that I like this. I'm going to keep doing more of this. Okay, then maybe I have 2 carrots rather than one. You know what I mean? Maybe I have a couple of green beans. Maybe I have, you know what? I'm going to leave the chips. I'm going to say I'm going to have some baked potato instead. I'm going to just try this out. And if my body feels a certain way afterwards, then maybe I keep doing it. You know what I mean? That's the win. That's the win because we don't get to go to the future. We don't get to go to the past. We just can be here right now. And if you can right now make a little bit of a good adjustment for you, you all of a sudden give this is a great bit of like fulfillment for me as a personal trainer, as somebody who works with clients, is when they tell me that I started doing it, and then now my sister's doing it, now my dad's doing it, now my whatever my wife's doing it. You know what I mean? That makes me feel so good because it's you having the bravery to try something for yourself, not feeling like you have to achieve everything day one. This is I think a lot about our culture is we see somebody trying something and we say, Chadda, you can't do that. You know what I mean? It's going to be too tough for you. Don't worry about. When really, if someone's doing something, push them forward. You know, and push them forward towards that forward as though they were coming towards their deen. You know, because they're coming towards their body aligning, and this body's been given to us as a gift. You know, what I mean, we have to look after this, and if we help ourselves, then everybody around us should help us. You know what I mean? And in turn, we'll help them. That's the way this has got to go. You know what I mean? And don't see the end picture. I think that's you said something earlier. I didn't pick up on it as well as I should have, but don't see the end picture. See just what can you do right now. And if you can get away with that, slowly you'll start seeing the benefits. And if you start picking up on those signals, being aware of those signals, and then being kind of grateful for this food that we have around us that we can choose in this country, we have abundance where we think we don't. We have absolute abundance. And then slowly but surely it starts getting better and better. And that's where you'll start seeing that external image that you wanted to see all along. You realize it's not so difficult to achieve. It's really not.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I think one of the things is about being the example, like you said. If people can see you
Mm,
improve, everybody
mm,
wants a piece of that. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
What,
100%.
what is it? Like, is it a new brand of coffee you're using? Not me,
Yeah.
you know, doing this, and this. People will latch on to it. But I think other more importantly as well though is that when as parents we do think our kids pick up those habits, don't they? Whether we like it or not, they
Mm,
pick up those habits. And the more active we are, and the more sort of better we eat, because one of the problems I think we have as a society and as a community is that we'll give our kids certain foods to eat, and then we'll gorge ourselves on different types of food.
Mm.
Right? And it's like, well, this is for you and this is for us. And what we're kind of teaching our kids is, you eat this when you're young, but when you're older, you can let all of that go. And I think it just kind of says, when you become an adult, you can be irresponsible, or
Yeah, yeah.
you can follow your desire in that way. And I think
Mm.
there's a strong responsibility on us as parents
Mm. Mm.
to live that example. Do you know what I mean? There's no point me
For
telling
sure.
my kids, eat your greens, and then I'm sitting there, yeah, with no greens on my plate at all.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. I
And
totally agree, bro. I totally agree. I mean, I think it's I don't have kids, but I feel like working with people, if I don't set an example, they might not listen to me, but they'll never fail to not copy me. I mean, that's the same for kids, I think. I think kids, they might not listen because they might not be aware, but they'll never not put you on that pedestal. I mean, you're their educator, you're their father, you're that person in their life. And if they see you doing something, they will copy. They will copy. You know what I mean? And they don't even know why. They don't even need to know why it is really. And health or whatever. As a child, you don't know what health is. You just know, okay, what we're having today. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really important thing you touched on there. And I've been blessed with that from a young age. Both my parents eat very well, and they push me to do the same. And obviously, that's it's allowed me to be in the position that I'm in right now. Yeah, I think that's got to be in the forefront of our minds. Is that when we're eating, we're not just eating for today. We're eating for the rest of our lives. When we're training, we're not just training for today. We're training for the rest of our lives. And back to this like 6 week transformation or this like overnight, you could look like this. It's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. You know what I mean? Nothing, no world champion, no Formula One driver. No, I know you're into that, right? No, none of them have got anywhere where they've gotten overnight. It just doesn't exist. You know what I mean? All this stuff is day on day, doing a little bit better, doing a little bit better for who you are. If you want to be somebody who's an athlete, then okay, then we've got to shift gears a little bit. We've got to do it a bit more seriously. But if you're going to be somebody who's just going to be healthy and going to put out a good message, which is good enough, that's more than good enough for yourself, for your family, then you know what, doing a little bit every single day is going to get you so far. You'll be so happy with the results.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
there's also like psychological impact that has on you.
Hmm.
You know, when you really enjoy whatever physical activity you choose to do, whatever tools, as you've mentioned, whatever tools you choose to keep yourself physically active, and you eat properly, it focuses the mind better, and that in turn obviously has an impact on your moods, has an impact on your effectiveness, your productivity, your length of focus and concentration.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. I mean, something that I've been talking about. I shoot a podcast with one of my friends, and on there this week, I spoke. We did a podcast the day Ramadan started, and there was a lot of jitters about like, oh, Ramadan's here. You feel excited. You feel like we're going to get tested, and then we did a podcast yesterday, and I said to him, I said, I don't need food and water to sustain me. You know what I mean? As much as we look at other things, so there's many things in our lives that we use as like sustenance, whether it be meeting up with friends and family, we got to enjoy that sometimes. Food and drink, we enjoy that sometimes. We enjoy, all of these things. But sometimes you got to realize that the quality of your thoughts sustains you in these times. Because today we can eat whatever we want. We can eat whatever we want in the evening, but we know we're going to be hungry again tomorrow. We're going to be thirsty again tomorrow. And really, this is a perfect time for us to almost leave that habit alone, and kind of looking at it as really, I don't need sustenance from something sweet. I'm stronger than that. You know what I mean? I don't need it from, yes, I'm thirsty, yes, I'm hungry, but if I face that and I say, look, the thing that I really do need is sustenance from other things. And you've talked about working out a little bit. That's one of the ways that I gain happiness from. I do it. I feel good about myself. I get the endorphins flowing. I feel my physical body improving, whether it be I'm stretching or I'm improving that. I don't have any aches and pains here. I can push it a little bit harder. Obviously, in this month we've got to be a bit careful. We can't go crazy, but at the same time, when I do it, I feel good. When I've just done it before I come on this air, come on this podcast with yourself, and I feel great. I feel great because I've pushed myself. I've enjoyed it, and that's one way that I sustain myself. That's one way that I sustain my mental attitude. And then from there, there's other ways that we can look at how the quality of our thoughts, the way we talk to ourselves, the goals we have. You know what I mean? And then there's so many other ways to sustain ourselves as opposed to food and water. And I think that's one of the things that this month is here to teach us, is that we have it at our fingertips. When we're out of this month, it's right there. But do we really need it? Do you really need it? This is something that, like, will you be better off long term ignoring the food and water, putting it to a side and saying, look, I'm going to focus on this. And this is what this month is here to teach you, is that, like, yes, we're hungry and we want to have what we want to have, but really, what other ways can we find to keep our mind satiated? Because once you'll notice this tonight, if you put the first drop of food in your mouth and it's fine, fleeting, all of a sudden you need another thing, you need another, and you need another. It's teaching you that, you know what, it's that bite is only sustaining you for a split second. So really, can we find other ways to sustain us for much longer? You know what I mean? And the quality of your thoughts, the way your mind works, I think is the key for a lot of this stuff. Is that we don't need to go to things we've always gone to sustain ourselves. I think there's many other ways we can do this.
And I think you're right. And given that the the extra worship that we have for the, like for example, the Taraweeh prayer, the more focus on reading the Quran, given that we cleanse our body like this, that we hold back and we do, with that focus of not necessarily, oh, I'm going to get to eat, but rather than when I eat, I'm going to eat well, so I'm going to get to do my worship better.
That's it.
And that's really where your mind starts to open up, in that sense of productivity of what did you want to get done this month, as far as, like, try to get through the Quran. Some people are trying to make sure they read this many Taraweeh in an evening. And given that we're not in the mosque anyway, there's a different challenge on all of us to be up at night and focusing ourselves rather than, following the Imam who says Ameen and you just carry on, you go with it, But it's very different, taking a lot more in that sense of concentration and focus and developing what we call, that khushu in our salah, that sweetness of prayer, in the sense of being immersed and just, really, trying to be developing that relationship with Allah and being at one with Allah as much as we can. And so I think there's that, in the sense that, the food is there and alhamdulillah, it's a blessing, but it again means to the other facets of what we are, it's like, mashallah, like we're on day 13 now, and so it's, there's another
it just goes so quickly.
I know Friday's gonna be halfway point, and it's like, subhanallah, already, but already in the sense of what we can still be doing for ourselves productively and increasing our iman through these activities and through these actions, inshallah. Umar, I know I had a whole load of stuff I wanted to sort of explore with you. We're heading into towards the last 10 minutes of our show, mashallah. So I think we'll cover some of the other elements around sort of just generally, what advice do you have for, let's say, somebody who's not active at all? I'm sure you advise them not to do anything during this month, but what to sort of consider, contemplate, and get into their mindset to start doing action. Because, like you said, activity is one bit, but the food is quite a large element of it. And given that, how our sleep patterns are right now, because they are a bit more intense, simply because when we do wake up for we eat, and so that affects us when we get up, how we get up in the morning, rather than usually when you get up for Fajr and you get up and have breakfast. Any sort of thoughts and advice on that, inshallah?
For sure. In terms of, if you're not active right now, I think the first thing is you've got to understand why you want to become active. That's the first thing, is that if you tie that why to a big reason, like if I'm active, my family's going to be active. If I'm active, I can be healthier. I want to be healthier for reasons X, Y, and Z. That's going to give you a lot of mental fortitude when it comes to I don't sometimes want to work out, but I know that if I don't do it today, then I've got to do it harder tomorrow. I've got to do it again tomorrow. You know what I mean? There's got to be a reason why we're doing it today. Yeah, that's the first thing. And then from there, I wouldn't put pressure on yourself to start off doing so much. I mean, we can attest to this, which is that when we started training together, it was probably not what you expected, in the sense that let's do some stretches, let's do some basic movements that help you understand your body a bit more. And for instance, we've just been through like a few tests to see, does your body really move the way we need it to move? You know what I mean? Are you able to rotate this and rotate this? If no, okay, let's start there. Because really, if you're moving your body and you think, okay, I'm going to go and do 10 burpees, I'm going to do 20 push-ups, and I'm going to do 10 jackknives, and I'm going to do 20 push-ups, really you're moving yourself in a way that might be hurting you more than you know. Yeah, so the first thing I would say, definitely find out why you want to do this. If you find a strong reason, and then from there, educate yourself around your body. And if you don't know, get in touch. Don't know, find somebody in your local area who you trust, who can help you out. And then from there, I would definitely say start slow and start just walking, because there is detriment to walking. If you've got problems when you walk, then please be careful doing that as well. Find something that you can do which is pain-free. That's probably the advice I can give most people, is that be as pain-free as you can when you work, when you move, when you work, and find a routine around that. Put it around your namaza, put it around times in the day where you think, I have nothing on, and I'm going to make a routine of this. I'm going to just, don't worry about what the scale says, don't worry about what your dress, how it fits, whatever. Just make sure you show up every day and build routine, because there's that is the most powerful thing right now, is just breaking old habits and building new ones which are good for you and not hurting you in any way. Once you have all those three things set, you'll start to develop momentum. And this is the thing, is that I use this analogy a lot with clients, is that when you have a space shuttle that's about to take off, it has a fuel load of 100%. It's fully fueled, but it takes 60% of that fuel just to get off the launch pad. 60% goes. And what I mean by what the wind there, what the thing to understand there is that it takes a lot to just get you going. So if you are eating a bit better, if you are walking, if that's pain-free, if you are cycling, if that's pain-free, don't start crazy, but just start. That's the win. That's the win, that you did it today. You know what I mean? I know, like you mentioned about this month, it's not the month where we're going to make all the gains in the world. We're not going to change our physique completely. We're not going to do that. But the fact that we show up every day and we do a little bit is the win. You know what I mean? We talked about this last time we had a session, and we said just the reps, just doing the reps in a slow, controlled, understanding manner is the thing that we're going to win with most in this month. So start there, start slow and build momentum, because there's an infinity after you start as to how far you can take this. There's so many exercises, there's so many different ways of training, there's so many things we can do. But the main thing is understand why you're doing what you're doing, and then do something every single day that doesn't cause you pain, that makes you feel good, that makes you tick that box that said, I did something today. Whether that's stretching, whether that's I put a YouTube video on for Pilates, whether that's I did a walk around the park a couple of times. Do it. Just make sure you show up every day and you do it. Yeah, that's the first bit of advice I definitely give people.
Yeah, so that's just finding your one thing that you can stick with and just get on with it. Basically, just do
that's
that.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
100%. 100%. Yep.
And as far as just general advice on food, because we did touch on that, and I think I just wanted to share a little bit sort of my experience of working with yourself, Umar. And it, like I said, it's been completely different to what I thought it was going to be like. And it's we've been doing a whole load of stretches around opening up certain muscles around the hips and the shoulders, but it's all been around stability and mobility. I think is the best fit for it, isn't it? Yeah, and that's retraining my muscles to be able to cope with well. We've got those large muscles, like for example, you've got your traps and you've got your back and your chest muscles, and then as soon as your shoulder decides to do something, and if it feels a little bit heavy, the bigger muscles say, "Oh, we'll help you out," and they start to help in, and so the smaller muscles don't get quite as an intensive workout. but
Mm.
that's outside muscles. But there's a whole bunch of tinier muscles and smaller muscles all in there that are
Yeah,
trying to cope as well. But the bigger muscles are doing too much of it, and
that's
it's
it.
kind of tough love really for my smaller muscles at the moment, because they're having to wake up, and the bigger muscles are being deactivated, and so they actually we can't help from this angle.
Yeah,
um,
that's
and
it.
so the smaller muscles are really having to get their game together
Hmm.
and tighten up. But inevitably, that's going to improve my stability and my mobility overall,
Hmm.
which is have an impact on the way I play with my kids, the way when I still do stuff outside, and eventually when I get back to the gym.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, yeah. But the process we're going through right now is like it's like wiping the slate clean because we've had years and years and years of putting things on the slate that might not be the best thing for the body. And in some cases they're very good for the body, some cases they might not be the best thing. And there's a few tests that we've done that highlight, okay, maybe my shoulder hurts when I do this, but it's fine when I do this. Okay, great. So that means there's a tick in this box, which means good job. There's a cross in this box, which means okay, we've got to work on that thing. And really, it's a case of work on all the things we need to work on to move forward so we can do the other things we want to do well. You know what I mean? And if we have it so we just started doing big movements like squats and deadlifts and jumping on this box and pushing that sled and all this stuff on day one, really we haven't addressed those little things. And those little things, it's like you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that weakest link is the thing that needs to be addressed first. If we make you whole, strong, you can do anything. That's the thinking behind this kind of training is that if there's certain parts of your body that hurt right now, then that is where the focus needs to go first, because that's the thing that's gonna get injured, and that's the thing that's gonna halt your progress. And we all know what it's like to when we get an injury or when like something happens that halts our progress. It's very hard. We're back on that starting platform again. We have to escape again all this like negative momentum. We have to start building up again and start slowly. We don't want to ever be in that position. So the way we safeguard ourselves against doing that is we go through these and they're orthopedic tests that I've been taught over the years and learning a lot of now. And it's a case that we go through certain movements every single day, and the movement that we go through the most is walking. So let's make sure that our legs and our hips move very, very well when we walk. If there's certain things that feel tight, if there's certain things in your back that feel tight, well, the back is linked intrinsically to the core muscles. So let's make sure they're all firing really, really well. Another thing that we do a lot is we reach in front of us. Whether we're typing on a laptop, whether we're writing something down, whether we're driving in a car, anything, whether we're putting something on a shelf or whatever, we're always doing things in front of our body. So that involves our shoulder muscles, involves our upper back muscles. So really, our life and the functions that we do, the actions that we do in our life dictate how we should train first. And then if we want to go and lift a barbell, if we want to go and do some ring pull-ups or whatever, then we can worry about that. But let's get the basics down first. And we call them the basics, but I really shouldn't call them I should call them the fundamentals, because this is how we live, this is how we walk, this is how we do our things. And if we can't get that stuff right, then why are we worried about going to the gym? You know what I mean? That's not the idea. And right now we have a blessing in disguise, which is the gyms are closed. You have nothing to do with, like, unless you have a home gym or whatever. Really, the time right now should be focused on yourself. You know what I mean? Yourself. And the more we can understand our bodies, the more we can understand how we walk, how we function, the better we're going to be served for when we get back to the gym. This is the thing that a lot of my clients are finding, or yourself is finding, is that as soon as we fix these we tighten the wrench here and we torque the wrench there, your body just firms up, and it's like, I'm very capable now of doing these little tasks. So when I get this big task, I'll be fine. You know what I mean? I've looked after I've managed all the variables, and I'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and mashallah, and this is such sort of solid advice, because like for example, the main sort of injuries we get, it can be from like the hips or the glutes becoming weak, your core is weak, or your rotator cuff muscles are weak, and because of those sort of three key areas, whenever there's a weakness in there, that's
Hmm.
where injuries happen. And there's nothing worse than going to the gym for a regular time and then coming off for an injury, because you're going to lose all those gains.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
mentally, like you said, if you don't go back and strengthen the reason why you got injured, you're just going to keep on that continuous cycle. And that's kind of what we've been working on. myself, is that it's about strengthening that core areas of stability and getting that mobility right. Because one of the other things that we do a lot of is sitting. You know, we stop standing, but we do a lot of sitting as well, and that has a detrimental, a negative impact on our health as well.
Totally agree, bro. Totally agree. And then this the things that we need to, like you said, that those are the two areas that I outline, is that if you can walk well and you can be supported when you're walking, fantastic. If you can sit down well and your posture maintains a certain stature when you sit, then really it's not gonna take anything away from you when you're in that position either. So simple things like that can send us so far. We don't need to look too far to the crazy Instagram workouts or like CrossFit or anything like that. They have their time and their place. But right now, if you're in this boat where you feel pain when you move, or if you kind of not quite understanding something about your body, go straight there, because your body's telling you that's a signal from your body to address that first. And then inshallah, once you've addressed that, once you've given it the care and due care and attention that it needs, it can support you going through any venture you want to. But don't ignore that first warning.
Inshallah. Oh, bro, we've come to the end of our time together.
So quickly.
I know, right? It's come past 6 o'clock already. We could probably talk for another hour again. Subhanallah. Well, thank you very much, Umar Saab. Jazakallah khair for your time, your insight, and your expansive knowledge, mashallah, on this subject. I'm certain our watchers and viewers and listeners will have got so much out of it. Really appreciate you sharing your expertise so openly and transparently. Jazakallah khair.
Anytime.
May Allah accept your Ramadan, and may Allah blessings upon you and your family. And
yours, bro.
Yeah, and for all of our viewers, Jazakallah khair for tuning in. Tomorrow I will be on with Hamid and I will be going through some more Q&A stuff. That's from 5 o'clock on Thursday. And until then, Jazakallah khair. And everybody, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.